Imagine you and your best friend both got the same raise. Same amount, same day, same company. 6 months later, you check in. One of you has a new car, one of you has a new investment account. One of you is somehow more in debt than before, and one of you genuinely cannot explain where the money went. Same raise, completely different outcomes. This isn't about income, it's not about intelligence. It's not even really about discipline. It's about something deeper, something most people never think to examine. The financial personality type running quietly in the background of every decision you make, every purchase, every savings goal, every time you just this once talk yourself out of something or into something. Money is emotional. That's the thing nobody warns you about. You don't manage money with a spreadsheet, you manage it with a personality. And until you know what kind of personality you're dealing with, your own, you're basically flying blind. So today we're going to meet all of them. Every financial personality type. Where they come from, how they behave, what they're secretly terrified of, and what they need to hear. Type 1, the spender. Let's start with the obvious one. The one people love to mock and secretly envy at the same time. The spender is not irresponsible. That's the first thing to understand. The spender is optimistic, radically, almost defiantly optimistic. They believe that more money will come, that things will work out, that enjoying the present is not a character flaw, it's a philosophy. And honestly, they're not wrong about that last part. The problem is the math doesn't care about philosophy. Spenders are often the most fun people in the room. The ones who pick up a round without being asked. The ones whose house always has food in it, whose vacations always look incredible on Instagram. They live life in full color. But here's what's going on underneath. Spenders are often driven by emotion. Shopping is soothing. Buying something new feels like progress. There's a little hit of dopamine every time the card swipes. And in a world that's frequently stressful and uncertain, that hit is genuinely useful, until it isn't. The spender's greatest enemy isn't expensive taste, it's invisibility. They're not making one big, catastrophic decision. They're making 100 small, completely reasonable decisions. The nice dinner, the upgraded flight, the shoes that were on sale. And the total only becomes visible when it's already too late. What a spender needs to hear. Automation is your best friend. Not willpower, not budgeting apps you'll ignore. Automation. Set up a direct deposit to savings before the money ever hits your checking account. Make saving the default, not the exception. Your brain can't spend what it never sees. Type 2, the saver. Now here's the personality everyone says they want to be. The saver is disciplined, consistent, never impulse buys, has a fully funded emergency fund and probably a backup to the emergency fund, sleeps well at night, checks the account balance before every major decision. Sounds perfect, right? Except, there is a version of saving that tips into something else entirely. Something that looks responsible on the outside but is quietly stealing your life from the inside. The extreme saver doesn't spend on the vacation because something might happen. Doesn't upgrade the car because the old one technically works. Doesn't replace the mattress until it is, clinically, a health hazard. They have money, they're just not using it for anything. Here's what's actually happening. For a lot of savers, money isn't a tool, it's a security blanket. Every dollar saved feels like one more layer of protection between them and some catastrophic thing they can't quite name. It's anxiety dressed up as virtue. And the financial world rewards this. Frugality is praised, saving is morally celebrated. So the behavior gets reinforced. You can develop a genuinely unhealthy relationship with money. Hoarding it, obsessing over it, feeling physical discomfort at spending even on things that matter. And every personal finance influencer will call you disciplined. The saver's greatest enemy isn't overspending. It's underliving. What a saver needs to hear. Money is a tool. A tool sitting in a drawer, unused, is not doing its job. There is such a thing as saving too much relative to what you're actually living. Build a spend guilt-free bucket, a designated amount every month that exists only to be enjoyed. Make spending sometimes the responsible choice. Type 3, the avoider. This one is quieter than the others. You won't spot them at a bar buying rounds or hear them talk proudly about their index funds. Because the avoider doesn't talk about money at all. Doesn't open the bank statements, doesn't look at the credit card balance, doesn't calculate what they actually owe on the loan. Not because they're lazy, they're often extraordinarily competent in every other area of life, but because the anxiety of knowing feels worse than the comfort of not knowing. The avoider lives in a fog. A deliberate, self-maintained fog. And here's the brutal irony of that fog. The things you don't look at don't get smaller. Interest compounds. Fees accumulate. The bill you ignored became a collections notice. The overdraft you didn't check triggered a penalty. The fog doesn't protect you. It just makes the problem grow in the dark. Avoidance is almost always rooted in shame. Either a past financial mistake that felt catastrophic, a family environment where money was a source of conflict or secrecy, or just a deep-seated belief that the numbers, if looked at directly, will confirm something they already fear, that they're bad with money, that they're behind, that they're a failure. And so they don't look. Because not looking preserves the possibility that it's not that bad. It is usually that bad, but it's also usually fixable. That's the thing avoiders don't know, because they haven't looked. What an avoider needs to hear. You don't have to fix everything today. Just look. One account, one statement, 5 minutes. The relief that comes from knowing, even bad news, is almost always bigger than the dread that precedes it. Knowledge isn't the problem. The fog is the problem. Type 4, the gambler. Not the casino kind, though sometimes that too. The financial gambler is the person who's always chasing the big move. The crypto play that's going to 10x. The stock tip from a guy at a party. The business idea that's definitely going to work this time. The refinancing scheme that saves money if you squint at the numbers in a very specific way. They're not stupid. In fact, gamblers are often very smart. They're also often charismatic, persuasive, and genuinely excited about everything, all the time. Their certainty is infectious. That's actually part of the problem. The gambler is addicted to upside. Not to money exactly, to the story of money. The version of events where the big bet paid off and they saw it coming when no one else did. That story is intoxicating, and chasing it feels better than the slow, boring, incremental reality of actually building wealth. There's almost always a big win somewhere in the gambler's past. One trade that actually did 4x, one investment that came through, one time the crazy idea worked. And the brain has filed that away as proof of concept, repeatable, controllable. It wasn't. What a gambler needs to hear. The math on big swings is brutal, and it is not in your favor. The expected value of most high-risk financial moves is negative, meaning over a large number of bets, most people lose. The boring path, index funds, consistent contributions, time in the market, has produced more millionaires than every hot tip, every crypto run, every venture bet combined. Boring is a strategy. The big move is a feeling. Type 5, the status spender. Different from the regular spender, more specific, more dangerous. The status spender isn't spending because it feels good, or because they're optimistic, or because of in-the-moment impulse. They're spending to communicate something, to broadcast a version of themselves to the world. The car isn't about transportation. It's about what pulling up in that car says. The apartment isn't about shelter. It's about the address. The watch, the bag, the restaurant, the school, all of it is legible. All of it is sending a message. And the thing about status spending is that it escalates, because the audience moves. What impressed people last year is expected this year, so the spending has to increase just to maintain position. It's a treadmill you're running on faster and faster, and it never, ever reaches a destination. The most dangerous version of this is status spending on credit, looking wealthy while being in debt, curating an image that the balance sheet can't support. It's surprisingly common, and it's financially catastrophic in slow motion. The payment is due long after the dopamine of the purchase has worn off. What a status spender needs to hear: nobody is watching as closely as you think. The car that impresses people when you first pull up is invisible to them a week later. The bag nobody notices the second time they see it. The status purchases that feel loud and meaningful are mostly whispering into a room that's already moved on. True financial confidence is invisible. It doesn't need to be communicated. Type 6, the planner. Now we arrive at what looks, on the surface, like the hero of this story. The planner has a budget, a real budget, not an intention, a spreadsheet. Categories, allocations, monthly reviews. They have a 5-year financial plan and quarterly check-ins against it. They max out the 401k, have a Roth IRA, and could tell you their net worth within $100 at any given moment. This sounds like the person who wins, and they usually do, financially. But there's a tension inside the planner that's worth naming. Plans are about control, and life is about surprise. The rigidity that makes a planner successful in stable conditions can make them brittle when things change, which they always do. A job loss, a medical bill, a partner with a very different money style, a child who didn't fit neatly into the savings projection. These shake the planner in ways they weren't prepared for. Also, the planner can sometimes optimize for the plan at the expense of the life the plan was supposed to serve. Declining the spontaneous trip because it breaks the budget. Not helping a family member because it disrupts the emergency fund. Getting rigid and righteous about money in a way that erodes relationships. The plan was supposed to be for something. The planner sometimes forgets what that something is. What a planner needs to hear: flexibility isn't failure. Build slack into the system. A good financial plan accounts for the unpredictable. And occasionally, maybe once a year, ask yourself, what is all of this actually for? The number is not the goal. The life is the goal. Type 7, the ostrich. You already met the avoider. The ostrich is slightly different. The avoider doesn't look because they're anxious. The ostrich doesn't look because they're busy. Or they'll deal with it when things calm down. Or they've been meaning to set that up. Or they have a general sense that it's probably fine. The ostrich is procrastination dressed up as optimism. The ostrich is the person who has had open retirement account on their to-do list for 3 years, who means to refinance, who will absolutely look into that tax situation soon, who thinks about getting their financial life together roughly as often as they think about going to the gym, which is frequently and productively and entirely in their head. The tragedy of the ostrich is compounding. Not just compound interest, though that too, but the compounding of delay. Every year you don't start investing is a year of growth you cannot get back. Every year you don't face the debt is a year of interest added to the pile. The gap between "I'll do it soon" and "I should have done it sooner" is measured in thousands of dollars. The ostrich usually means well. They're not reckless. They're just permanently, endlessly, exhaustingly not quite yet. What an ostrich needs to hear: done is better than perfect. You do not need to read 6 books, take a course, or fully understand every account before you start. Open the account. Set the auto transfer. Make the imperfect call. Starting badly is infinitely better than not starting. The clock on compound growth is already running. It started the day you got your first paycheck.